Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take complex stuff, break it down, make it make sense. Today, we're jumping into the really captivating world of Venetian plaster, and specifically, how to get that amazing, super luxurious look of Nero Marquina black marble. Right on your wall. Yeah, this isn't just, slapping paint on. So our mission today, pull out the absolute core of how you turn a boring wall into this incredible marble imitation and make it totally clear for you, our listener.
Preparation. A perfectly prepared wall. Spackled, sanded, incredibly smooth. The source video makes a big deal of this, and rightly so. The better that initial surface prep, the smoother it is, the less actual Venetian plaster you'll waste. Which, makes it cheaper, but also just better, more effective, leads to a beautiful finish.
Right, so it's not just about saving a bit of plaster.
Not at all. Think about it. Venetian plaster, especially when polished, is almost translucent, very reflective. Any tiny little bump or dent underneath, it won't hide. It'll actually get amplified by the light hitting that glossy finish, so getting it perfectly smooth. That's about making sure the light reflects evenly, makes your marble veins look real, not like they're painted on a bumpy road. It's kind of the unsung hero of the whole thing.
Okay, that makes sense. A flawless foundation for a flawless look. Got it. So foundation's solid. What's the next layer going down on this super smooth canvas?
Right. Next up is a base coat. Good quality emulsion paint. Typical water-based wall paint. Good, because it dries pretty fast, takes color well. And the key thing here is it needs to be tinted black, as dark as you can possibly get it. This gives you that solid, really dark foundation. It's basically the primer for the whole effect. This dark layer makes the marble effect, especially the white veins later, really stand out, provides that essential contrast.
How black does it need to be, though? Can you go too black? Or maybe not dark enough? Is there a perfect shade?
That's a good point. The goal is maximally dark, as the source puts it, but realistically, getting a true, deep jet black with pigment, it's practically impossible. It'll end up being almost black. And you know what? That's absolutely fine. That's what you want. Don't stress about hitting some absolute black. That deep, almost black is the perfect canvas.
Okay, good to know. So now we're on to the main event, right? The first plaster layer. And the source shows something interesting here. Using a regular spackling knife, a spatula. Not one of those fancy Venetian trowels. What's that about? And what are we actually doing with it?
Yeah, that's a really great detail, actually. Shows accessibility. The Venetian plaster itself, the first layer, that's also tinted black. Again, aiming for that almost black. And you use that regular spatula to basically stretch it across the wall. Thinly, evenly. The fact you can use a common tool, not a pricey specialist trowel, it tells you something important. It shows that technique, understanding the material, how to handle it, that often matters more than having the most expensive gear. It makes the whole thing feel less intimidating, right? More achievable for you, maybe without buying a whole new set of tools.
That is interesting. But wouldn't a proper Venetian trowel, give a better finish? Or maybe make it easier? Is there a downside to the spatula?
Well, a specialized trowel might feel different in the hand, sure. And pros might prefer it for speed or maybe getting a specific subtle texture later on. But for this first foundational layer, the main goal is just getting it on evenly and thinly. It's more about your hand skill, the pressure, the angle. That's way more important than the tool itself at this stage. It kind of empowers you to just jump in, maybe with tools you already have.
Right. Okay, now this next bit. This feels like where the real art starts. Creating the streaks. So after that first black layer, we're mixing some of that black plaster with white to make streaks and pulls. How do we do that well?
This is definitely where the creative side kicks in, and the source gives a really vital piece of advice here. Before you even mix that white in, you absolutely need to go online. Look at pictures of real Nero Marquina marble. Seriously, study them. It's not just for vague inspiration, it's about authenticity. It guides where you put the streaks, what they should look like, their character. You want it to look natural. And when we say pulls, yeah, that means those sort of broader, softer blended areas, where the white and black mix more gently, gives it that diffused, natural marble look alongside the sharper streaks.
Okay, research first. Makes sense. And what about how many streaks? Or how wide? Should we go crazy with them? Or hold back a bit for this style?
Yeah, for this specific Nero Marquina look, the advice is definitely restraint. Don't make too many streaks and don't make them too wide. Ideally, you're aiming for maybe 2 or 3 main strips across the area. You might see some photos of marble with really wide veins, sure, but for this imitation, less is often more. These carefully placed streaks are mimicking the natural white veins in the black stone. They give that pop of contrast without, taking over the whole wall. Subtle details often make the biggest difference.
Got it. Restraint is key. So those first streaks are on. What's the next step for building up the surface?
Okay, so next you're basically applying more layers of the black Venetian plaster, particularly over areas that maybe look a bit too light or where you want to deepen the black. There's this thing with the material, as it dries, it tends to lighten up a bit. It's just how it works. So adding more layers lets you do some localized darkening, some spot coverage where needed, build up that richness. And the source actually says the more layers applied, the more beautiful the result will be, because that depth really comes out when you polish it later.
So patience with drying between these layers sounds pretty critical. I imagine someone wanting to just get on with it, though. What happens if you rush it?
Yeah, rushing is tempting, but it's mostly about the long-term quality. If you don't let layers dry properly, you risk trapping moisture. That can mess with how well the next layer sticks, and it can definitely affect the final sheen. So yeah, giving it enough drying time between each layer, crucial for getting that deep, multi-dimensional look and making sure everything bonds properly before you start sanding. You'll be glad you waited.
Okay, patience it is. Now, on to sanding. Sounds meticulous. This is for getting rid of unevenness, blending edges. What sort of sandpaper are we using?
Exactly. This is all about refining the surface, getting it ready for that shine. You want to use sandpaper with a grit of P360, P320, maybe even finer. Higher number means finer grit. Now, grit just refers to how coarse the sandpaper is, right? Low number, like P80, is rough for stripping stuff off. Here, we need fine, P320, P360. The particles are tiny, and that's super important because fine grit makes very shallow scratches, scratches that you can easily polish out later. If you use something too coarse, you'd leave deeper marks that would just ruin the final look. So fine grit prepares it perfectly for drawing veins and polishing.
And after sanding?
Yeah.
I'm guessing dust is the enemy. What's the absolute next step?
Oh, absolutely. Dust is the #1 enemy here. You must clean off all the sanding dust, every speck. Use a damp towel or a damp sponge. But, and this is critical, make sure it's just damp, not soaking wet. You don't want to add lots of water back onto the plaster, just damp enough to pick up all that fine dust. A perfectly clean surface is absolutely essential before you even think about drawing the veins. Any dust left behind will just interfere. Big time.
Okay, clean is critical. Now the veins, this sounds like the moment the marble really appears. We're using that same white emulsion paint, the untinted stuff from the base. How do we approach drawing these?
Yep, this is where it really starts to look like marble. You use that white emulsion paint. A medium-sized brush is good. And the trick is to vary how you hold the brush, vary the pressure as you draw. That creates different line thicknesses, makes it look irregular and natural, like real marble veins. They're never perfectly uniform. And the great thing is there's flexibility. If you draw a vein and you hate it while it's still wet, just wipe it off with a damp sponge. Easy. If it's already dried, you can gently sand it off, or honestly, just cover it up with a bit more of the dark Venetian plaster. So don't panic.
That sounds like the most artistic bit. Do you need to be like a proper artist to do this? Or is it more forgiving?
It's definitely more forgiving than you might think. And the beauty of it is, real marble veins are unique. They're chaotic, almost like someone's handwriting. So there's no single right way to do it, which is quite freeing, actually. Once they're drawn, though, you do need to let that paint dry properly. Give it a good 4 to 10 hours. Make sure it's fully set before you move on.
Right, let it cure. Okay, exciting part. Dry polishing. What tool are we using here to start bringing out that shine?
Okay, for this, you need an angle grinder, preferably one where you can control the speed. Angle grinders are powerful, often used for cutting, but with speed control, it's great for polishing. You'll want a P600 sanding disc on there. Or interestingly, the source suggests you could use an old, worn-out P240 or P320 disc. Because it's wound down, it's less abrasive. And set the speed on the grinder to maybe 4 or 5, gives you control, stops it jumping out of your hands. This dry polishing, this is where you start to see the plaster's own shine come through. You begin revealing the depth.
And what do you see immediately? What's the effect?
You'll start seeing that dry shine pop straight away. It's the inherent luster of the plaster itself starting to emerge. It's not the final mirror finish, but it's that first hint of depth and reflectivity. It's actually a really satisfying moment, seeing that glow appear on what was a flat, matte surface.
I bet. Okay, final touches then. Applying a special wax, specifically for acrylic Venetian plaster. This is the magic step, right? The mirror finish.
This is absolutely it, the grand finale. Right. This wax step is what takes it from a nice sheen to that mirror-like shine. It really deepens the contrast, makes the blacks look blacker, the whites pop. And the source gives a strong recommendation here. Buy the plaster and the wax from the same company. That ensures they're designed to work together perfectly, avoids any weird reactions. So you apply the wax, then polish it off using a sheepskin or a felt pad on the grinder. This final buffing reveals the full depth, the reflectivity. It makes the marble imitation really convincing, gives it that wow factor.
Wow. Okay, from a plain wall all the way to this stunning Nero Marquina look. That really is quite a process. We've gone through prepping the surface perfectly, layering the dark plaster, creating those streaks, drawing the veins, meticulously sanding and cleaning, and then the polishing and waxing. It's amazing how all those steps build on each other for this final, really impressive decorative finish. And the example in the source, a wall and a cafe.
Where else around us is that kind of artistry just waiting to be seen or even recreated, something hidden in plain sight? Hopefully you found this deep dive useful, maybe even inspiring for your own projects.